Hello and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stuart. I am here today with special guest, Kevin Tuhy. And Kevin, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure having you.
One of the reasons I'm so excited, and I want to jump straight into the topic, it's one that I find fascinating and underutilized, and that is the Ben Franklin effect. And you and I are going to discuss this and how it shows up in our lives and also the lives of our clients and colleagues.
Right.
Can you share with everyone what is the Ben Franklin effect?
So the Ben Franklin effect is something that I think a lot of people do all the time and don't even realize they're doing it. So essentially what it is, it's how do I get somebody that doesn't like me to work with me, and how do I get them to like me? What Ben Franklin discovered, it's in his biography, one of his autobiographies that he wrote. But what he discovered is that when he asked people for favors and they were adversaries, that they always came back into the room with a different light toward him. I
Yes.
think the story goes he had a political rival, and he asked to borrow a book from them,
Right.
realizing, and then I think that's when he realized the power of it, because that adversary came back into the room and now had a different relationship with Ben Franklin and started to talk to him more, collaborate with him more, and
Hmm.
started to get around him. So I think he brought a self-value to this person, that he stroked their ego, for lack of a better term,
Absolutely right.
and I think that's really the gist of what you're doing.
And it is true because you really hit on something there. When you ask someone for a favor, or essentially the unspoken message is, I trust you, I believe you're reliable. I trust you enough that I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to ask if you could assist me. So
Mhm.
you are, I believe it lowers people's defenses and it allows them to see you in a different light of like, oh, they they must be whatever negative thought they're having about you, they must think, well, wait a minute, maybe I was wrong about that, because if they're smart enough to recognize that I am a trustworthy person to come to as a resource, they must be better than I thought. So it just, and this is all subconscious mind,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
but it's amazing the difference
But
it
co
makes.
but consciously, when you use it, what you're doing is you're giving them their power back, right?
Yes.
You're validating who they are, regardless of everything else. You're validating who they are. You're giving them the power to do it, and you're creating an environment where you're going to collaborate more than
Right.
let's just use the real estate world for an example, right? That's what we know best. I remember years ago watching Diana Kokoschka talk about her listing presentation. And one of the
Right.
first things she used to do was ask people for a glass of water. And what that did is it already subconsciously let the client know that she's going to ask for things along the way in the process. At the
Exactly
same
right.
time, it gave them some value during the process.
Yes. And it's just such a way of setting a tone. Again, it lowers people's defenses.
Absolutely.
So, oh, yes, I'd love to get you a glass of water. On that same note, because I see and I know of agents that make this mistake where you go into the listing appointment. Not only do you not ask for the glass of water, when they offer a drink, they say no. I'm like,
Right.
what?
Right. Right.
You don't say
You
no,
never
right?
say
You
no.
say, I would love one. Thank
You
you.
don't take the glass of water, because what the glass of water also does is if they give you an objection and you don't have an answer, I can drink,
Drink the water. That's
I
right.
take a sip and come
Yeah.
up with an answer.
Yeah.
But I think we do that a lot with, it's the same thing when you're doing a deal with another agent. For some reason, you know how agents are. Sometimes you're like two hockeys on a goalie team.
Right. Yes.
Two goalies on a hockey team where you just become adversaries right out of the gate, instead of going to that person, hey, let me ask you a question. How can I do this? And what do you think about this? And get the other agent involved in the process, not just attack them with with negatives.
Yeah, I do think that's effective in negotiating. And one of the ways, because there's so much power just in the phrase. So if you are the two, hockey goalies, and the conversation is getting more in the weeds and not about the two principals successfully achieving the transaction, use the phrase. I'd call you and be like, Kevin, could you do me a favor? And you'd be like, yes. That is one of the automatic yes questions.
Hmm.
Even if you were, like, annoyed with me, you'd say, like, I don't know, what is it?" which is a modified yes, right?
Yep.
It's like a maybe. But if you say, "Could you do me a favor? Could you just explain to me? I'm attempting to put myself in your client's shoes. Could you just explain to me a little further how they're perceiving this?" That's a different conversation than, "I don't care what they said, and if that's their bottom line, we're not moving through, and guess what? You're gonna have to put it back on the market and disclose it. How you like that?" Right? So just if you yeah, it's such a that one little phrase is such a powerful shift.
Right.
And
Right.
and then how is Kevin gonna look at me after that conversation?
Look at it as you almost look at it as coming from a place of reverse contribution, right? So that you can take it, back when I started as team leader 6 years ago, and I've recruited hundreds, I think I just passed the 600 mark a couple months ago. But I didn't know any agents in the area back then. So my first phone call to them was, "Hey, you don't know me, but I know you. And I was wondering if you could do me a favor and tell me a little bit about how the environment is in this area so I can understand what agents are about." That was my opening
Mhm,
line. So I was
mhm,
already asking them, I was stroking their ego a little bit, right? Hey,
right,
you don't know me, but I know you. And then asking them to give me feedback on what the environment is.
right. And you
So
probably had
I
some
didn't know I
engaging
was doing the Ben
conversations.
Franklin effect.
That's right, and now you know,
Now I
the
know.
power. One of the really intriguing things to me about Ben Franklin effect is it does work in the issue we just discussed of tense negotiating, or you have an adversary, or, with Ben Franklin and the example of the book, someone who straight up doesn't like you and they're open about it because that person was pretty open about it, right? The beauty of it is, guess who else it works with? People that know you, love you, and trust you.
Exactly. Just going to say that. I was just going to say, we do it. It's called parenthood, right?
Yes,
It's called parenthood. Where our kids, they grow up to love us because we help them along the way, but we're also involving them and we're asking them to do things and we're asking for their advice and we're asking, we do it to our spouses all the time, right? Even if I know what I should do, I still go ask because
right,
I've been married 21 years, so I'm smart enough to know to go ask,
right,
right?
yes.
So
Yeah.
but we do it all the time in our personal relationships. That's how you keep them going. That's how you keep them growing.
Well, I was thinking, so just to share, because I want to talk about some practical applications of the Ben Franklin effect for anyone who's listening. And I know that you are a very successful businessman. You are the team leader of Keller Williams First in New York. And I believe you said you guys are over 600 agents now. Is that
We're
correct?
getting close. We're getting close.
You're
Yeah.
getting close, which that's a very considerable size. That's something. But you're also part owner in other ventures. You have
Uh-huh.
investments, real estate investments,
Uh-huh.
a title company. So you're really working with a lot of different teams, a lot of different players, a lot of different agents. Like you're really involved and active. When you think about the Ben Franklin effect and how that could be used, not just in real estate, which real estate is our chosen passion and
Mhm.
industry, but even in just a business management situation or other types of sales. What's an idea that you have where people could use the Ben Franklin effect to improve their customer relationships, their interactions with their database, or their sales?
Well, it crosses every business because we need favors to grow a business. I need to meet people to grow a business. I need to know who you know to grow a business. Hey Bridget, can you do me a favor and introduce me to who are your top 5 people that are around you? Who are those 5 influencers that you deal with? Can I meet them? Can you introduce me? Those things stem across all industries.
That's right.
Jeff Bezos didn't build his business by staying in his garage all the time. He kept doing it and going out and meet people and asking people to do things for him. And you have to reciprocate that, right? You have to, if you're going to introduce me to 5, I need to introduce you to 5.
Hmm.
Like let's network this together. But that's the Ben Franklin effect at its simplest form. It's just asking for those connections. Like I need a favor. I need to
Hmm.
know who you know.
Right.
That's any business. I don't care what
That's
you do.
right. And that putting the measurable of the top five, that's so critical. Or adding a specific detail like, I am looking for attorneys that handle wills, trusts, and estates, right? So adding in that clarification and not being vague. So to give you the opposite, like It's not as powerful if I call Kevin and go like, "Hey, Kevin, I want to expand my networks. Could you just let me know anyone I should
Mhm.
know?" Okay, Betty Lou Bick Bick. So when you add in that little bit of specificity, Ben Franklin asked to borrow a specific book.
Right.
That's
Right,
right.
exactly. And if you and when you a lot of people have the reverse. They wanna always help other people, and they never ask for the favor in return, you know? I have an agent that I'm coaching now that, her business has gone from about 5, 6 million a year. She'll probably cross the 30 million because we got to talking one day, and she told me all the things that she's involved with, and I said, "Do you ever ask them in return for the favor? You've earned the right to go ask them at a certain point."
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be the Ben Franklin gets you over the hurdles of those people, because listen, in business, there's a lot of people you're not gonna go have a beer with after work,
Correct.
right? You're
Yes.
not gonna like everybody, but
Right.
there's a lot of times where you need everybody, and it's 2 different relationships, right? So, being able to still ask them for the favors to keep them in your circle, right? People have value to you and you to them, even though you may not go to their house for Thanksgiving. It's
That's right.
okay,
Well,
you know?
it's you brought up a really interesting point, and I'm glad you did. Many people that are in sales or they've achieved some level of success in leadership, because this is the leadership issue too. And tell me if you disagree, but many of them hang on to this feeling of, I need to do it myself. I'll do it better. It'll be faster if I just do it myself.
Mhm.
And so they have leverage around them, or they have people that would want to help because it would make them feel a part of things, but they don't. They purposely are like, no, 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 I don't want to impose, like, no,
Mhm.
I'll do it. Don't worry about it. And they think they're making things easier for the people around them. In actuality, can you see how they're actually making the people around them feel undervalued, underutilized,
Yeah.
disrespected,
Yep.
inept? There's
Yep.
almost a subconscious condescension when you will not allow people to help,
Right.
and yet the person doing it thinks they're doing something good.
Yeah, and it also puts a ceiling. It also creates a
Yeah.
ceiling. Like, you're never gonna get past this point, because I've seen really, really good business people hit this ceiling, and it had nothing to do with ability. It has everything to do with time,
Yes,
right? You
and
only have X
bandwidth.
amount of time in the day. That's it. And you can only achieve, I don't care how good you are. You still gotta sleep, and the day ends. And by not leveraging the if you ask for the favors, you leverage the favors, you reciprocate the favors, you help them grow too. That creates a loyalty beyond,
Correct.
beyond wherever. Over my career, I've left 3 jobs because I followed my boss, because
Mhm,
I was
that's
loyal to
right.
him.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was because he involved me in all that things, and he asked me for favors, and I did them, and they were always fair. I wasn't doing his job for him.
That's right.
But that ceiling is where they get caught up, and and there's many topics in that one statement you just said where they want to do
Mhm.
everything themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Talent
going on in there.
retention. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in
Yeah.
there. But yeah, but piece of it comes from not knowing how to ask people, because you know what a lot of good salespeople are not. They're not good salespeople. Like,
Yes.
they they go through all the motions, but they don't. Like, go read Zig Ziglar. You want to be a
I
salesperson? Go
know.
read Zig Ziglar. Right?
Yeah.
Zig Ziglar is probably the master of the Ben Franklin effect, even though
I
he didn't
agree.
know it,
I agree.
you
Yes.
know, because it was just that, and that's how you grow. That's how you keep growing your business, and that's how you ultimately take care of the things, and that's how you build the life you want to build and do the things you want to do. And be able to do them when you want to do them, right? So how do we do that? We need people to help us. And
What would
but
you
by
s
doing that, you can expand what you're able to do, because we can't always stick to the people we think like us.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a more qualified person that may not like us. So how do we make them like us? Well, hey, let's start with the Ben Franklin effect. See how it goes,
That's right.
right?
I agree. If you so going back to the example I gave you of, that person that doesn't want to use leverage. Oh, I don't want to overload them, or no, I'm just going to do it myself. And that reverse, like, because you don't trust they could do it right. That's the unspoken part of that. What would you give them as a recommendation of an action they could take this week to attempt to create change in that mindset or that dynamic?
Well, just start with one person. Just start with one. Just get one person back into the loop because you're going to alienate them in the long run. Then you're going to disconnect. It's like all the friends we had in high school, right? We don't know where they're.
Yeah,
We don't know where 99% of them are today. So you got to start somewhere. You start with one person. Ask for one favor this week from somebody you normally wouldn't ask a favor from.
that's a
And
great
then next
idea.
week
And just
make it
start
two.
with one because
Just
you have to
start with
start
one,
somewhere.
and the next week do another one. The next week do two more, and just keep just creating that even if the favor is, hey, let's go have lunch. Do me a favor.
Yeah,
I'd love to have
yeah,
lunch and catch up. That's the Ben Franklin effect. It's not a
it is.
tangible thing, but it's a thing that brings them back in.
It is so funny you said that because I just did that.
Good.
I have been work very focused on work and family, and I realized I wasn't socializing. And I literally reached out to a lady that I know lives in this area, and we've been friends for years before I even moved to the Paradise Valley area. And I literally said to her, "Hey, Linda, could you do me a favor?" And she said yes. I said, "I have not been social recently, and I really just want to go to lunch with a friend. I do not want to talk about any business. Could we go to lunch?" And we did. And then we ended up going and painting pottery together because we were
Right.
like, so it's so funny. I hadn't put two and two together, but that was the language I used when I called her.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. And if we don't, you'll get crushed if you don't find that balance, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Gary Keller talks about in MREA, right? That you're going to tilt. You'll
Oh,
tilt.
yes. And I was getting tilted.
Yeah.
So I proactively reached out, but I used that favorite language. So that's kind of funny to
Right.
me.
Right. We were out to dinner a few weeks ago, my wife and I and another couple, and the guy turns to me and says, "Hey, how's the real estate market?" I said, "I don't know. It's Saturday at 8 o'clock. I could care less.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't,
That's
don't
right.
care right now."
Yeah. It's
So it's
closed. It's closed
yeah,
right
but
now.
but the Ben Franklin effect is really just it's something that subconsciously I think either people are very good at or they just avoid it. I don't
Yes.
think I think it's something that people don't realize that they're doing and not doing at the same time.
My concern around that is that many very successful leaders, managers, salespeople, they are very self-reliant and they are actually able to do a lot. And frankly, to be really successful, you have some bit of ego. Otherwise you wouldn't be getting
Right.
up and doing what you're doing, right? But I think sometimes what happens is the ego gets a little out of control and they feel like, "Oh, if I asked for a favor, they would think I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not strong enough or good enough, and I need a favor." So they feel like it would make them feel look needy or desperate, or something. They're attaching an emotion, not understanding the group dynamic. Even though it's two people, that's still a group, right? And they're
Well,
not
yeah.
realizing that. So
And
they,
I think the ego becomes the control, right?
Mhm,
Because most, type A control micromanagers, um, come from the position that they know better than everybody else.
that's right.
And studying the Ben Franklin effect, it's probably most likely because they never ask somebody else.
That's right.
So they just assume that maybe that person has a better idea, right? Maybe that person has a better thought. Maybe they have once you open up that world. Look at Steve Jobs, right? Probably one of the great
Mhm,
examples. Steve Jobs, when he started Apple, did very well, making millions. But what Steve Jobs realized very early on was he didn't know how to run a business.
mhm,
So what did he do? He asked for help and he hired a CEO, brought in a
right.
CEO from Pepsi, and then all of a sudden Apple was $1 billion business,
That's right.
right? But that probably took a lot of that took a lot out of his ego to ask for that.
Yeah, he had to set the ego aside
Yeah, he
and
had
and
set the
move
ego
forward.
aside.
So it just I feel bad if anyone is not asking for favors because they feel like it will make them look weak. It's not about you, it's about how you make the person that you're asking feel,
Right, right.
right?
And that's where a lot of it comes from. A lot of it comes from that ego of not, you know, people don't want to look stupid, right? They're
That's
afraid
right,
if they don't know, they're afraid if they don't know the answer, like a perfectly acceptable answer is, I don't know, but give me 24 hours and I'll get you the
and I'll
answer.
find out, yeah.
Right. That's okay.
You and I have talked a lot about kind of a one-on-one sort of scenario. And what I started toying around with is this can be used in a one-to-many situation. And I want to tell you one example I thought about, and then I don't know if you have any feedback or some other
Mhm.
ideas we could share. But let's say you're in real estate, you're a listing agent, and you want more listings. What if you made a list of your top 20 VIPs, inner circle type people, and you literally approached them with, "Hey, I need a favor, or may I ask a favor? I'm revising all of my listing materials post COVID. I'd love your feedback and I value your opinion. Would you please review these materials for me?" And you sent them to them.
Great. That's a great idea.
Incredibly effective. If you ask the favor, they're going to open it, read the whole thing. They're going to look for any spacing issue, typo,
Mhm.
anything that might be in there because you asked for the favor and you said that you value and trust their opinion. So you're going to get real feedback. Now, what's the difference? The difference is I'm just going to send an email out with my listing package and ask people if they'll take a look. But you don't ask that favor part.
Yeah.
Which one's going to have more engagement?
So it's funny you said that. So in our market center, our productivity coach, Kelly, when new agents come on board and once they meet with our tech person and we get all the contacts in the command, there's a message that goes out. The first message that goes out is to their entire database that says, "Hey, I want you to know some really exciting news. I joined Keller Williams. Down below, there's a link. I got a really cool app. Do you mind downloading it and give me some feedback?" That's it. That's the whole message.
Good.
And you wouldn't believe how many new agents get business in the first week
Yes. Yeah.
by doing that.
From that.
You know,
Yeah.
it,
So
it
it,
it's
it
so
could be very effective.
sure.
You're right. That's another good one to many
Yeah,
where
one to many.
you're
Every sports team in the world does it, right? Every coach in the world does it. Like, hey, I need a favor. We need to collectively work together to get this done.
right.
But those, taking those out, going in front of groups and giving speeches. Hey, I need a favor. And the favor could be, hey, I need a favor from you. What do you need from me? Like that's still
Yes. Yeah.
right. Like, what do you need
Yeah,
from
you
me?
can make it reciprocal right out of the gate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I'm doing it right now. I'm creating some testimonial videos
Mhm.
and I'm just reaching out and say, "Hey, I need a favor. Would you mind doing this for me?" Nobody says no.
Right.
Nobody says
Yeah,
no.
they say yes.
And here's the hard part, right? Here's the hard part for any salesperson. If they tell you no or they don't respond, then should they even be in your phone,
That's
right? We
right.
we don't like
Yeah.
deleting names, right? We don't like deleting names, but honestly, if it's not going to be a win-win, why do I? What do I do with that?
Right.
But that Ben Franklin looked like you're going to open up more of those doors.
I
Because one
agree.
thing, in any business, especially, let's put it back to the business side for a second, right? If you're in any business where you need clients, which is like 99.99999% of businesses, right? We need clients. If we're not constantly staying in front of them and asking them, it doesn't mean, hey, I listed this house or I sold this house or, I did this. It's, hey, I need a favor because statistically, we already know that every 17 weeks, people are going to forget what we do for a living.
Absolutely. Yes.
And some industries, especially the sales side, cars, houses, whatever it is, salespeople have this belief that people always remember what they do.
I know.
Right.
It's
You know,
amazing.
like I tell brand new agents, I said, you know what the worst day of your life is? The day you walk outside and your next door neighbor's for sale and it's not your
That's
name on
right.
the sign. I
That's
said,
right.
you know whose fault that is? It's yours. It's
Yours,
yours.
that's right.
Because we forgot to tell them, right?
Yeah, and people even do it in their database,
People do it in
you
the
know?
database all the time, and
I don't need to
with your
call them.
database, go back to those people that you normally wouldn't ask for business. Friends, family, like it's okay once in a while to say, "Hey, I need a favor." I have relatives in other states that I have call me that my neighbor's going to sell their house. I gave them your name so you can get a referral fee.
That's right, yes.
But you know why?
They
Because I
wouldn't be
asked
doing that if you didn't stay in touch and keep top of mind as a realtor.
and ask them to do that, right?
Right, right.
Because that's one thing that it goes in line with. It's asking for the close. Now that I think about it, the Ben Franklin effect is asking for the close. How many salespeople have you gotten calls from, or you've talked to, or listened to, or coached over the years, that when you hear the script, they never ask for the close,
Well, yeah.
and they never ask for the sale. The favor is asking for the sale. Same thing. You almost guilt them into it at that point, right? Which really, I guess, at the core is what the Ben Franklin effect is. If you think about it, you're using reverse psychology and almost guilting the other person to give you a chance,
Yes, that's right.
right? I mean,
I
that's about
mean,
as simplistic as it can get.
I think I'm so glad you brought up about that 17 weeks. You could, and you could set up in your marketing campaign that at least every 8 weeks, you have some messaging that's asking for a favor in your marketing. And then in terms of your communication with your database, it probably should happen once a quarter. There should be at least once a quarter where you are asking for a favor from the database.
And I love what you said about asking, like, on a listing package.
Yes,
It's also going to help you as the salesperson understand where the mind of the consumer is.
that's right.
You may have something that's irrelevant in there at this point to people,
Well,
right?
and
Or there's
then,
things that they didn't think about that they want to know about.
you and I, with our experience as coaches in our industry, you also just activated the reticular activating system for everyone you did it with. So they're going to be more on alert. They may share a need they have with you, or they'll send you a referral.
Yeah. And it
Yeah,
doesn't even have to be business related. You could say, hey, I need a favor. Here's a good one for you. Like, take your database. We're July now. So it's probably perfect time to do it. Your entire database, just send an email to and say, hey, I need a favor. I want to put together a holiday recipe book. What's your favorite holiday recipe?
there you go. That's right.
Right? And that's it. Right?
And tell me why it's important to you. Add in
Again,
that
yeah,
element. Yeah.
yeah. Then you make the book and you send them a copy of the book, and then they're showing all
That's
their
right.
friends. Look, I made a book. You know.
Well, it's so funny, and you touched on this before because you talked about getting the connections in that more of a one-to-one conversation. I love the emails where you're asking for a professional. So sending your entire database. Anyone listening, I'm including the old dead leads. I call those Lazarus leads. Include Lazarus. Lazarus wants to be included. Where you say, looking for a dog walking recommendation, or looking for a recommendation. Hey, I need a favor. My favorite, most reliable dog walker moved to Virginia. I am looking for, and I love this language too. Instead of turning to the internet, I thought I would turn to all of you. I thought for sure you must have some trusted, reliable dog walkers that you could recommend to me.
Yeah,
So
that's
please
great.
reach out and let me know
That's great.
when you do
That's
something
it.
like that. And it could be any service.
Anything.
Yeah, dentist, the housekeeper,
Right. Listen, why even
car
take it a step further?
detailer, doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
why not
Yeah.
send them a list and say, I'm building my vendor list and I
Yep.
need a roofer and I need a plumber and who do you
Yeah.
know in these categories, right? Because what you'll find by doing that is now, you know, all of a sudden the person you knew from 10 years ago, she's married to an electrician,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
now, okay, cool. Now I'm going to feed him business.
That's right.
Right, and now he'll be on my recommendation list and blah, blah. You
Yeah.
open up that dial because all you're looking for, when you're asking for the favor, all you're really looking for is to create an interaction,
Yeah.
right?
And a more meaningful relationship. Another
Correct,
historical
correct.
point moving a relationship forward. Yeah.
That's right, and whether it's personal or business, it doesn't matter,
Doesn't
like you did
matter.
the other night. Now you just
Yeah.
reopen you re-engaged with the relationship
I
that's,
did.
that's gonna keep you from tilting in the long run.
That's right. And we had lived near each other for like 2 years and hadn't seen each other in town.
Right.
So I want to carry further. So we covered really that essence of it. And one of the things that we all know that any of us who've studied Ben Franklin, genius, by the way. But another thing he did is I just want to carry it out loud one step further. Let's say he did ask for who do you know or do you know a dog walker? Well, he would make sure that he would then tell the person who recommended a dog walker, I want to thank you so much and I'm going to reach out to them. Then he'd reach out to the dog walker and say, hello, dog walker. Kevin Tuhy told me I should reach out to you. And he said X, Y, and Z great things about you. And how does that make that person feel? Right. And then would again go back to the first person and say, "Kevin, I wanna share with you, I spoke to Deirdre, phenomenal." So then what happens when Deirdre and Kevin see each other again?
Right. Well, you're creating a double Ben, Ben Franklin squared, right?
Yeah,
You know,
because you made her feel better with your recommendation, you felt better I took it, and that she showed up in the right way. So you're actually indirectly strengthening other people's relationships just by your communication and
yeah.
your actions.
Well, and you're also creating that trust triangle right now because now they
Yeah,
trust that you're going to follow up,
that's right.
right?
Yes,
Now they trust. Now you've just created a piece of trust there as well. So it can work in many ways, and it's so simple. It's so simple, and it's and you said let's talk about this today, and I went back and researched a little bit. I'm like, this is so simple. Like it's not a complicated thing, and we do it all the time.
right.
We do it all the time, but do we do it with the right purpose? Do we do it with the right intention? Do we do it with the right thing that's going to help them and us? Because I think you still can come by doing that. You can still come from contribution because now they're probably going to ask you for a favor at some point,
That's right.
which is fine.
I know with your expertise, because in addition to everything we listed, which I know you are so engaged and very passionate about everything you do with the investments in the Market Center and Keller Williams First in New York, the title company. You and I are also now colleagues because we're both coaches, experienced coaches, and we've chosen to practice our coaching with the Coaching Nexus.
Hmm.
And frankly, this probably came together because I said, "Hey, Kevin, I need a favor. I think
Yep,
you'd be a
right.
great
You did.
podcast guest. Will
You
you
did.
come and do
That's
it?"
exactly what I want. You
Right.
went Ben
So,
Franklin.
yeah. And now look, from that ask of a favor, you and I know each other better. This is the thing. People in our society are hungry for connection and relationship. And correct me where I'm wrong. They're also hungry to feel important and seen, heard,
Hmm.
and valued.
Yep.
And I mean, not to get on a whole nother topic, you need to come back as my guest again and we'll discuss the loneliness epidemic. But there is a loneliness epidemic occurring. It's impacting more men than women, although unfortunately, recent data shows women are catching up, right? Yes. Yeah. And so I just want to, with this conversation, anyone who is listening to this, can you shift your perception in if you embraced this and we're intentional about, I'm going to make people feel better every day by asking for favors. And as leaders or salespeople or managers, if we actually challenged ourselves, give ourselves a measurable. We all love goals and measurables. I will ask for 3 favors every week, even if you measure it. I believe this could start to have an impact because people feel better when it happens.
Yeah, I do too. I think what you did is the perfect place for people to start. Put the business aside for a little while. Get back to those interactions with people and building those
Right.
relationships back on because all that all that business stuff is just there for the other stuff anyway,
To happen. Right.
right? If we're
Yeah.
doing it right, it's to create that so that we can go have those interactions with people. But I think hey, if you got 10 people over the next month that you haven't talked to in 10 years. All right, we'll use the
Call them.
10. We'll call it the rule of 10 now. So
I
10
love it. The rule
people,
of 10.
10 people, 10 people in 1 month that you haven't spoke to in 10 years.
I love it. I
Just
think that's a
start
great
there.
idea.
Just start there.
And it's
I think it's a good
something
place
that
to.
you are right. A lot of us do it naturally.
Uh-huh.
However, there's a lot of IDs and there's a couple things they're not good at. One is very typically not good at like rewarding or recognizing employees. Like that's something that doesn't come naturally or remembering birthdays. So this might fall in that category for about 20% of the people that may be hearing this. That's why I say schedule it. I am considering time blocking because I'm a calendar robot and time blocking an hour each month where I specifically look at, is there anyone who would benefit if I asked them a favor? Could I incorporate this? Do I need more social time? And using it as another filter to look through my being my best as a coach and a leader. Could I enhance it by making other people feel valued and wanted? And I'm going to time block it and I'm going to do it. I know that's not sexy. That's not
No,
romantic.
but
It's,
no,
it's scheduling the date. but if I
Yeah.
schedule it,
Yep.
it'll happen.
Right. It'll happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I think
So
that's
that would be
great.
my one word of advice to fellow high Ds out there. Put it on the calendar and make it
Put it on
happen.
the calendar. Right. Right. I don't have that problem.
Well, I think I know we haven't known each other that long. I think you're a little bit of a higher I
A little
than I
bit.
am, also a D. I think you're probably like an ID, and
Yes.
they're both probably high. Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I could talk about this at length. I do
Mhm.
feel like this has been a good conversation. You gave some great suggestions for people to do. I highly recommend just embracing this and just start today. Like Kevin said, pick one person.
There's
I
one.
would start with, if you happen to be in real estate and you have an assistant, start with your assistant. You will
Yeah.
make them feel so good. And so they'll feel like you value them. So
Great
pick one
idea.
person and start. I love the rule of 10 challenge. So
Yeah.
start with one, then pick 10 and just
Mhm.
incorporate this into what you're doing. Kevin, if
Yes.
anyone wanted to reach out to you, what's your preferred method? Now, remember, some people are seeing this, it will be in a description. Some
Yep.
are listening only. Is there a way that they can reach out to you
So
simply?
the best way to reach out to me is call or text message me. My
Okay,
phone number's my phone number's 845-238-4963. Is the
excellent.
absolute best way to get me.
That sounds fantastic. Any final thoughts you want to share?
No, just thanks for having me. This is great. This is great. I think it's food for our souls too, right?
It is. It really is. Because and that's one of the reasons I like working with colleagues like you and being at Coaching Nexus, because all the coaches are sharpening their knives every day too. So we're in it and growth oriented. So
No, but I
I'm going to
appreciate
thank
this.
you
Thanks
again
for
for
having
being
me.
my
Thank
guest.
you.
I really would love to have you back again in the fall.
Anytime.
Thanks for having a great conversation. And I hope the rest of you will come back and join me again on the next episode of The Inner Estate. Really appreciate it. Subscribe, like, download, and have a great day.